In this video, we're going to be talking about the ride cymbal. This is generally the biggest cymbal on a drum set, usually the heaviest. It is used to play an overriding pattern in the music. It's an alternative to playing the time or the pattern on the hi-hat. It's a different texture than the hi-hat. It's a washier, more sustained, bigger sound, and often the two sounds are used together to give different textures to the music. We talked a little bit about the makeup of the cymbal when we were discussing the crash cymbal. The ride cymbal, as I said, is generally the largest cymbal on the kit. It ranges from 19 inches up to 24 inches, but definitely the most common sizes for rides are between 20 and 22 inches. It is a thick cymbal and generally has a lot of sustain. This part right here is called the bell or the cup, coming right out from the middle. And then out here in the playing area, the general playing area with the tip of the stick, you have the bow of the cymbal, and then of course the edge out here. This particular model is a K-Sweet ride. And this is a great cymbal because it's like I said before, it's right in that sweet spot. It's not too dark and it's not too bright. It's really good for a lot of different musical contexts. Now there are many different varieties of ride cymbals. Some are very dry, some are very shimmery, some are extremely thin, so they crash really well. But sometimes if you have a really thin cymbal, you're sacrificing some of the stick articulation when you play on the body of the cymbal. So talking about the playing area of a cymbal, the sort of sweet spot is about a third of the way in from the edge. So if you play too close to the bell, it's going to be too pingy and too bright for general playing. It might be the perfect sound for a specific musical moment, but generally you want to play kind of right in this area, and that goes for anywhere around the cymbal. And then if you get too close to the edge, the sound starts to wash out a little bit. In a minute, I'll play this cymbal and you can hear all the different playing areas and what they sound like. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about this cymbal stand, because as you'll see, it looks different than this stand. These are both DW 5000 series stands, but this is a straight stand, whereas this has a boom arm. So the base is the same and everything about it is the same except for this boom. So the purpose of this is you can set the stand in a certain place and then you can get the cymbal to be in another place by extending the boom out. So it just gives you more options for your setup to get your cymbal exactly where you want it without having to move the bass. Once again, I can't stress how important it is to have a felt and a sleeve covering the rod of any cymbal stand. If you put any cymbal directly on the rod, eventually it will crack the cymbal. So if you have a plastic sleeve or a rubber sleeve, it's going to rub up against that rather than against the metal, which will damage the cymbal. Let's discuss the position of the ride cymbal. I'm setting it up right now for a 4-piece kit, which means I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces when I add the 2 toms. So when I have a rack tom and a floor tom, there's plenty of space for the cymbal to be right here, where I can come right up from my position over here. I can just turn my hand over and I'm right in the sweet spot that I need to be in that cymbal. Or I can move from the hi-hat to the ride just by basically turning my hand over, and it's nice and close. Now, many drummers like to have 3 toms or a 5-piece setup. In that case, there's a tom basically here, one here, and then the floor tom. So if you're going to use that setup, you have to set your ride cymbal up a little further over to the right on the edge of that second tom. So it changes the technique in the playing area a little bit for the ride cymbal. My preference is to have the cymbal close and to have just 2 toms. Now generally when we play the ride cymbal, we use the thumb up French grip. So if we start just as we discussed with the pad and with the snare drum, with our hands in American grip, come up in this position. All you have to do is turn your hand over, thumb up in the French grip, and now you're in the sweet spot on that cymbal. I'm not at the edge of the cymbal, I'm not way in by the bell, I'm right in the playing area without even moving my elbow. I'm right there. Now let's listen to the different sounds we can get out of the ride cymbal. I'll play the bell with the tip of the stick, which is the lightest of all the sounds. I'll play the bell with the shoulder of the stick, which is a little bit more piercing sound. Then I'll play the bow of the cymbal from almost at the bell all the way down. You'll hear it kind of get to the sweet spot, and then as I get further out, you'll hear it wash out a little bit more like I was talking about before. And then I'll play a couple crashes on the cymbal so you can hear what that sounds like. Again, when I'm crashing even the ride cymbal, I'm using a glancing blow. I don't push straight into the cymbal. I'm coming off the side using that sort of J-shaped stroke to make sure that I'm not damaging the cymbal and I'm not damaging the stick. So if we're playing the cymbal with a French grip with the thumb up, it's incredibly important that we maintain that space in the hand and that we're relaxed and we can move freely in this way, so that you'll see there's a lot of swing, a lot of throw that you have with the stick in this position. As opposed to something like this, it takes a little bit more wrist, where here it just sort of rolls around that finger and that thumb and you have a lot of space to play. This is excellent for playing the cymbal because it gives you a chance to have a really good rebound stroke. So you can get a wide open sound out of the cymbal. You can get it to really open up and resonate easily. The ride cymbal is notated with an X on the top of the staff. Now we're going to play some eighth note grooves with the eighth notes being played on the ride cymbal. Play along with me, I'll count it in. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. Now let's play another 2-bar groove, but this time we're going to use the cross stick on the snare drum. And when I use that texture for my backbeat, I'm going to play a little bit lighter on the cymbal to balance out the kit. Here we go. Play along with me. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. Now let's play a little more aggressive groove at a faster tempo. So for this, I'm going to play my eighth notes out closer to the edge of the cymbal with the shoulder of the stick to get that big washy sound. Ready? Let's play it together. We'll play a 2-bar groove 4 times. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. might be wondering why I would play that way, but the answer is simple. Sometimes the music calls for a little more energy and a little more sustain from the upper register of the sound, which the cymbals are one of the brightest sounds in any band you're going to hear. So sometimes it's appropriate for the music to have that heavy wash up on top of the sound to really give an exciting feel to the music. A common way to utilize the bell of the ride cymbal is to play it with the shoulder of the stick and alternate that with the tip of the stick on the bow of the cymbal. It can be played with the downbeat on the bell and the upbeat on the body of the cymbal, or it can be the downbeat on the body of the cymbal and the bell on the upbeat. Either way, you're alternating in a pretty steady motion. So let me show you what that sounds like with the bell on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. A lot of times the bell of the ride cymbal will be notated as a diamond instead of an X. It'll be on the same place on the staff, but just a different shape. Now let's use that alternating bell pattern in the context of a groove. I'll count you in, 2-bar groove, 4 times. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. Alternating between the bell and the cymbal is pretty difficult, and the hardest part about doing it is getting a really consistent sound from the bell when using the shoulder of the stick. It takes a lot of practice to get accurate with that, so I don't expect you to be able to do it right away, but I just want to offer it as another sound that you can use when you're playing all of these 8th note based grooves. Next, we're going to add the 4th limb to our grooves. This gives us a lot of freedom in adding a whole nother texture to the sound and the feel of the groove. However, to be able to do that, we have to learn how to play the hi-hat with the foot. There are 2 main ways to play the hi-hat with the foot. You can play with your heel down, or you can play with your heel up. We'll talk about the heel down approach to playing the hi-hat in another lesson where we talk about opening the hi-hats and playing with a sizzle sound with the hand. But for now, we're going to talk about the heel up method to play the hi-hat and get that really clean chick sound. A really common approach to playing with the heel up in the left foot is to bounce the heel on the foot plate. Without playing any notes, this is what that bounce looks like. Now, if I'm playing notes that are spaced apart, like just 2 and 4 in a groove to support the backbeat on the snare drum, I might bounce my heel on every quarter note and just lift up and play on those beats 2 and 4. That looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. The notation for the hi-hat with the foot is the only cymbal notation that you'll see below the staff. So it's on the bottom of the staff below the bass drum, and it's notated with an X. Now, I want to note that if you're bouncing your foot on the beat, there is no notation for that bounce. It's just a technique to help you stay in time and help you get a consistent flow happening with the left foot. Next, we're going to add the bass drum, and we're going to play the feet together. So we're going to play all 4 quarter notes on the bass drum, and we're going to bounce all 4 quarter notes on the heel of the left foot, but we're only going to play beats 2 and 4 on the hi-hats. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. Now similarly, we can play all 4 quarter notes on the hi-hat. You don't have to just play 2 and 4. So for that, we're going to bounce on every beat and play a note for every beat. Let's try 16 counts of that. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. This might be a good time for you to pause and spend some time practicing just the feet before we go on and add the hands. This can be very difficult, I know, and it takes a while to get used to. It takes a while to get the muscle memory happening. Again, like we've said in every other step, slow it down if you're having trouble. Be thoughtful and careful. Pay attention to your body, your posture, the whole thing, and try to keep everything really consistent. Once you have it down and you're ready, we're going to add the hands to that last thing we just did, which was quarter notes on the bass drum, quarter notes on the hi-hat. In the hands, we're going to add 1/8 notes on the ride cymbal, and then the backbeat on 2 and 4 in the left hand. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. Playing the left foot is difficult. I know it can be frustrating. If you're getting frustrated with it, don't worry about it. This is a long-term skill that you want to have. I don't expect you to get it the first time you try it. Another thing you can do if you're having trouble with this bouncing technique with your foot, with your heel up, try to play with your heel down and just tap your toes. It's an easier technique. You don't get quite as clean of a sound from the cymbals, but you can add that texture into your groove. As you can hear when I play these grooves, the hi-hat texture adds a lot to the music. It adds a lot of drive and a whole nother sound to your basic groove. So it is something that you want to spend time working on and add in as you can. In the next video, we're going to add the toms. We're going to tune them, and we're going to talk about playing fills utilizing the toms.